All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate the invitation by the organizing committee of WAVES, and it's wonderful to join all of you for this presentation that I'm making on yoga as a science and Ayurveda as engineering to construct a new world order. And that's hopefully will get your attention, especially for creating a new world order. And I'm going to discuss some basic information about India, because that's where India, the yoga and Ayurveda came from. So you have to look at the text, scriptures. There is a collection of scriptures and texts that in manuscripts or in books. And then there is a catalog of books. Then there are catalogs of catalogs. And India has the largest number of catalogs. So basically the information has been there for a very long time and has been organized. The reason it has been organized because India has this very great nature around it. And so Prakriti, and then they have indigenous ideas and collection of thoughts. Then they search for information, they do anveshana. And then they do punarveshana, which means, they do research, what we consider as research. Actually, first you have to do search and then you can do research. And then they organize, vyavasthikaran uska karte hain. So that is the way things are scientific. And then they express it. So this is where the manuscripts are coming. And then a lot of things are translated, not just the question of language of Sanskrit to English or something, but translation basically means ideas from one time to another time also. And when you look at India, then that forms the scientific culture. That is how a scientific culture is formed. And then when you really look at now India, why this is all that important for it? Because it has Himalayas. And Himalayas blocks all the cold air. So basically the environment in India, and India is only one that this happens, that has been there for very benevolent. And that's why the knowledge has been preserved for a very long time. And that's why this catalogs of catalogs is the largest number of catalogs in India. Now, why is this Himalayas only in India? It's because there is this geological journey that India as a subcontinent was 71 million years ago, was really near African continent. And then it moved about 10 million years ago. It slammed into Asian continent, and then it formed this Himalayas. This is just the only country in the whole entire on this earth that does that. And that then has created a history of humanity that is unparalleled. The humanity, according to science, genetics, population genetics, is apparently it started in Africa, but over 200,000 years ago. But for some odd reason, they moved 70,000 years ago to India, and that too is South India. And then you can see that only from this Indian place, everywhere, Australian population continued about the same time. They moved, they didn't stop here, they continued. But everybody else seems to be stayed in India for 10,000 or 15,000 years. The Arabs or even North Africans, Chinese, Europeans. Europeans are only 12,000 years or so ago that they went there. So to reach Europe. So the whole entire earth, the countries all over the earth, they have stayed in India at least thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So that's why they are also connected. So when I talk in terms of this yoga and Ayurveda, science and engineering for a new world order, the new world order the basis is this. So now how the information is organized and learned is, you can just see that first of all, India is the only country that has this scientific culture. It's in its constitution, the only country that has a constitution that says it's fundamental duty of every citizen to develop the scientific temper. So how is the scientific temper developed? There is two ways of knowledge. There's a deductive way of knowledge and inductive way of knowledge. Deductive way of knowledge is top down. You have theory and then you eventually prove it. And that comes from holy books, including Vedas. It's called Nigam Sastra. And in case of the inductive theory is Agam, which is like bottoms up. You make observations and then come up with the ideas. And this is true for everything. This is very scientific. Where India has already these two ways of knowing things. And yoga and Ayurveda come in this Agam Shastra, where you have observations and then you kind of make your theories. Examples of Nigam is that there is somebody who told that there will be 7 days in a week. And so everybody kind of follows that 7 days a week. But when in India, you follow the moon. So you have Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. And so that's like an observation based. That's the best thing that can be said. And actually, there is so much science around it when this weekly thing is a big problem for people's physiology, because physiology is affected by nature, and this is nothing to do with nature. But there is always going back and forth. In Nigam Shastra, for example, Vedas will be there, and Vedas will be always questioned and employed and tested. And yoga and Ayurveda come in that kind of tradition, so you kind of reinforce each other. And that knowledge starts from spiritual knowledge, where people have to do meditation, and then they get knowledge. And from that knowledge, you start looking at two ways of things: philosophy, where people discuss it, and science, in which people make observations. And then from there, you have various things coming up. Social structure comes from philosophy, and material manifestation comes from science. So you have medical science, technology, and other things that comes from this understanding. And then the rest of the game starts: socio, religious, management, business kind of things. All this appear, and then people get engrossed in it. So this understanding we have to have: socio-political, economical thing that we see today. It has an origin in the spiritual knowledge that comes from yoga. And that's kind of very scientific approach to look at it. Now, we have a difference in darshan and philosophy. Darshan is something that is more scientific. And in Bharat, India has a darshan called Vaisheshik Shastra, in which it discusses about all kind of elements that includes substance, quality, action, different kind of togetherness. And we are not only talking about human beings, we are talking about matter, molecules, atoms, and everything. And then these substance that we really normally see and examine in science is really 9 elements. It's a Panchabhutas, time and space, and it has self and mind also, which normally in modern science they do not necessarily accept that as yet. But that gives this whole concept of Ayurveda. Ayurveda is engineered from this kind of science that came from yoga, which is like science, and this is now the Ayurveda. A lot of people know how this is done, and this is not the place to talk about it. But nevertheless, if we want to look at the science part of it, from Chitta Vritti Nirodha to Tapa to Swadhyaya, self, and then you get to know yourself, about you, and then you know your nature in a very detached way. This is the science always talks about unbiased view. And then you get to know self, and you establish yourself in the self. The Sanskrit word is swastha. The swast means health. It comes from here. So this is how yoga and Ayurveda get connected. Yoga is a science, you pursue it, and Ayurveda is a medical system or system of this world, life that you practice. Then when you have this kind of thing that you see in the future, people are going to be using yoga concept. Yoga is establishing for so many things, all metabolic diseases, inflammatory diseases, immune system, and so on and so forth, including coronavirus. And this is a holistic approach, and this is going to be upcoming in the future. Then also, when you look at this Panchabhuta system in Ayurveda, you see that how the world has been created from Akash Tattva to Prithvi Tattva, and how it can be destroyed also. This system is being created like that. And when you look at these two types of ideas, then you have this model that I have created: mind, or called Vesti or psyche, and then you are surrounded by society, you are surrounded by the environment, and you are surrounded by the whole Samasti, means the whole universe. And this makes it system as the mind or a particular person, and the surrounding becomes the rest of it. And that is when you have this connection, it's called Yat Pinde Tat Brahmande, the system and surrounding idea. Now, in case of India, they have this idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the entire planet is its family. And so when you have a nationalism, it becomes a problematic for a philosophy. Actually, they should have internationalism. India must change its instance to internationalism so that we can have a duty for everyone. And Ayurveda becomes a medium, a tool to use this, because you can provide service to everyone, and then you can even save the environment. And when you have this concept, then this concept allows us to do this, the entire world order, from Utpatti to Nispatti, which means from the origin to the end. And the way it happens is that you have this evolution of the universe, where the Big Bang theory tells, like, how there was a Big Bang, the big sound, which means Akash Tattva actually. And then by meditation or yoga, you understand this whole idea, and then create this Ayurveda world order. And this, then people like me, I'm just putting my picture here, so that they think about various fields, various ideas, concepts like time cycle, planet cycle, season cycle, daily cycle, moment cycle, and life cycle. And then that gives to all these philosophies, psychology, politics, university, education, anything you name it. And then that needs to be again understood through meditation as to where this is all coming from, how this is put together. And that leads to back to the origin. So the Utpatti to Nispatti. This is what I wanted to present for this conference. And hopefully that it will trigger some ideas in you, so that you can promote this or criticize this. In any case, examine it. And I hope that will be done by all the audience. Thank you so much.